Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Light 'em Up. Welcome back. Welcome to the lounge. Thanks for joining. It's Wednesday, time for another exciting show, time for another exciting session with a very special guest. And this week, we have Hostos Fernandez here with us today. It's been a long time in the making. Hostos and I, we finally had a chat at the PCA and said, "Let's do it. Let's get this on the calendar." And here we are. So it's an absolute delight. It's a privilege. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to welcome Hostos. Hostos Fernandez, thank you very much for joining us.
Reinhard, thank you very much. It truly is a pleasure to be on the show. And as soon as you and me had that conversation at PCA, what did I tell you? Of course, I've been waiting for this. So I was very excited to be part of it, and I'm happy I'm here. I'm excited.
Thank you. Much appreciated. A quick word to everybody joining us over on the YouTube live stream. Please make yourselves heard. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, please put them underneath the live stream. I'm always following the YouTube stream as well. So let's bring your questions in. And for everybody here at the lounge, you know the spiel. Our friends and family chime in, and we'd love to have your questions during the show. Hostos, you most certainly are uh, for a lot of people watching this, I would imagine, um, kind of like a new phase because you're a behind the scenes hero of our
Correct.
industry. You're one of these few people that the end consumer rarely ever hears about or sees, and still, though, you have a tremendous track record in the premium cigar industry. You've been part of the industry mostly most of your life, like almost your entire life, but most certainly since the age of 15, 16, I believe.
Correct.
You honed your skills working alongside your uncle Manolo Quesada at the
Mhm.
Quesada factory. You've been with Cigar Rings, and the one thing that we can see on your baseball cap, and the one thing that
Always.
everybody's excited about is obviously Tabacalera La Isla. Um, it's been 4 years, I want to say now, or is it 5 years already? I'm losing track of time. Um,
Me too, my friend. But this is the fifth year that we're open
there
officially.
you go. Yeah, and I mean, you opened Tabacalera La Isla smack in the middle of COVID, and
Yeah.
um, it that certainly was an interesting time for the premium cigar industry, no question. But yeah, what an adventure! I saw an article on Cigar Press recently when Fred did kind of a revamped interview session with you. I still remember the first interview, which I believe Thor did
Correct.
when you opened, and then when I saw the interview or the article that Fred had put out, I was like, damn, it's been 4 years already, or as you said, the fifth year now. But unquestionably, you are one of the brightly shining new kids on the manufacturing slash factory block. And whilst everybody is excited about what's happening in Nicaragua, and there's a young group of impeccable professionals in the Dominican as well, and you being very much at the forefront of that. Um, 4 years in, how do you feel about the journey with Laisa, and did you expect things to evolve the way they have been, or would you say this is really unexpected as to how everything fell into place and where you are with the factory right now?
Mhm. Well, I'm extremely happy, Reinhard, because of the kind words, first of all, that you're saying, and I want to also call out Cigar Press and Thor and Fred because they were the first people who gave me that nice interview when I opened the factory as well. Besides the other, I mean, magazine-wise, that was the first one. That was very nice write-up, a few pages. I was very happy about that. And again, I'm very happy about the journey because it's been very appreciated and very humbling the response that we've gotten ever since we started the factory, you know? And going back to your questions about the expectations, I mean, not really. I didn't expect it to grow as quick as it has because when you open up a company at this at this level, it's a huge risk. There's a lot of things that factor into it. There's a lot of risks that probably I didn't take in the beginning. An example of one of those is I should have gotten a bigger place, but I was too scared to get a bigger place when I opened because I wanted to start slowly. But things have happened in a good way where we officially started in January of 2021, actually, is when we officially started because I was building out the factory before that. And we started with 3 people, and today we're more than 90 here. I mean, and it still blows
Wow.
my mind, and it's still unbelievable that when I started this company, Reinhardt, when I started this company, it really was a risk for me because I went all in. I sold my car. I used up all my savings. I said to myself, I'm going to be 40 soon. Now or never is the moment for me to take a swing at the bat here. And I've always been involved in the industry, as you mentioned. I'm 40, and I've been working in the cigar factory since I was 15 years old. Ever since I started working summers when I was in high school, and I fell in love with it. I just didn't want to leave the cigar factories, and I fell in love with the tobacco and the process and how complicated it is, but still a natural process, and it's very artisanal. Those type of things always caught my eye, and I never left. I kept working there when I went to college. I did part-time factory and part-time college. And when I graduated from college, I just kept working. I've been working ever since. I've never stopped. The only thing I've always said is I wish I would have done a master's in psychology as well. That way I can handle all these personalities here at the same time even better. But still, it's been an amazing thing. And at the end of the day, with La Isla, we never expected the growth the way it was. But I do have to say we planned for it in a way that when you open up a place like this, you got to have at least some plans in place and hope those plans work out. But I did have some advantages, obviously, with the amount of time I've been working in cigar factories, and I knew what I wanted to do and what approach I wanted to take with the company. And thankfully, it's been a positive result. But at the end of the day, Reinhardt, it's what I always say. This is a very small industry, and this is an industry always based on trust. There's no contracts. There's no signatures here or there. This is a business that's based on trust, which is very surprising to a lot of people, but that's how it's always been. So one of my main goals also here when I started was be able to maintain the trust I've gathered with everybody in this industry when I was at Quesada or when I was at Cigar Rings. Because everybody already knew the way I worked, but I wanted to prove to people that I could do it on my own self as well.
Lots of points to dissect there and to dive a little deeper into. But sometimes we jokingly say that there's so many great cigars on the market, and the world really doesn't need another cigar brand because God knows there's plenty of cigars out there, and you could probably go until the end of your life smoking new cigars all the time without, a massive influx of new brands coming in. Now, what made you believe, or what convinced you that the world needed another cigar factory, and one being called Tabacalera La Isla coming from Hostos Fernandez?
It's a good question, Rayhard. One of the things that I did is it's interesting because when I left Quesada, I went to Cigar Rings because I was lucky enough that during all the time I spent at Quesada, when I left the company, there was a lot of offers I had to go work in different factories and do different things. But eventually, the offer that was made by Cigar Rings for me seemed the best option at the moment. And I liked the idea also because I could see another part of the industry
Different segment, yeah.
outside of a factory, a different segment, see how that works. And to be honest with you, Reinhardt, a lot of my customers that work with me here today are customers I met during my tenure at Cigar Rings, and I had never worked with them directly at the same time. So when I decided to leave Cigar Rings, life is always funny. I decided to leave Cigar Rings, and a week later, the pandemic happened. And everybody was on lockdown, and I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? I should have stayed here. I should have kept going. But I always say life is an interesting thing. So I always read cigar news every day, right? It's one of my things every morning. I get a coffee, get a cigar, and I read up on what's happening. During COVID, I kept seeing the opposite of what everybody expected. As always, when there's a situation, in the cigar biz, everybody thinks we're all going to disappear and everything, everybody goes crazy and this and that happens. Obviously, we always need to be ahead of the game, seeing what's going on. But I saw the opposite, which was cigars were booming. People were buying a lot of cigars. I loved it that when people had to be in their house in peace, the cigar is what they needed to accompany them. And that's where I said, cigars are always going to be the best company at any situation, in any moment, happy or sad or in the middle, you know? So, me seeing how everything was going, I kept thinking to myself, why can't I not get in this and do some of this as well? Like get a little bit of the business that's going on and happening. And my wife always asked me, why didn't I open up a cigar factory? My father-in-law always asked me, why did you open a cigar factory? So I always told him, wait, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But during the lockdown, they doubled down on that and kept asking me and asking me. And I said, you know what? Hold on a second. So I started thinking about it and I called about five, six close friends in the industry that I know very well just to ask him if I was going nuts thinking about opening a cigar factory. And amazingly enough, not one person said I was crazy. Everybody said it's not a bad idea, especially being that they know me and they know how I work. And Reinhardt, when I put my mind into something, I start. And as soon as I saw that that was an opportunity, I started investigating names here and there. I have to always admit that the name my wife threw it at me, and I was like, wait a second, that's the one. That's the one. And that same moment, I went in and registered it without even thinking about opening up a factory. I just said, I want to register this name just in case. And funny enough, when I decided to do this, my father-in-law that was always grilling me for years, I said, hello, put your money where your mouth is and invest in this company to start it with me. And thankfully, he did invest, and he's a partner here as well. He's more of a silent partner because I'm more on the forefront of the whole business. But he is a great partner to have. I love him to death, and he's been a great addition. So, and he did put his money where his mouth was after talking to me so many years, and that was great.
Bravo.
So when I decided to go through with it, this was August 2020, and everybody said, "What the hell are you doing? It's the middle of the pandemic. Nothing is open. Everything is a mess right now." And I just kept telling people, well, it won't be a mess soon, and I want to be ready for when it's back to normal, let's call it, right? So I found a space in August of 2020, and thankfully we don't have any OSHA rules and laws here in the Dominican Republic. So I was able to start in August, and the factory was done by December 1st because I wanted to be able to finish the factory up, make samples, and ship them out to everybody, just so everybody could have samples in their hands by the end of the year. That way, in January, we could start. So officially, we did start in January, and I'll never forget it. 2 weeks in, I got my first order for 1,500 cigars. And it was for me the best order I've ever had, to be honest with you, because it was the first one, the one where I started moving and rolling. And then we were lucky enough that a few weeks later, we got two and three more different orders that went over 100,000 cigars. And I was like, okay, we got something going here. And I haven't stopped ever since. We've just kept growing year by year. We've been doubling the production. We've been adding more employees, and we haven't stopped since. And in our factory, what we do here is private labels. No, no, I don't have my own brand. A lot of people are asking me, why don't you do your own brand? And I said, well, I first started this project just doing private labels because, as you guys know and have seen, as you mentioned, Reinhard, there's a lot of brands. And to make a brand, it's very expensive. You have to travel a lot. You have to do a bunch of stuff. So who's going to be at the factory when I'm doing all this? So I had to decide I'm either going to be at the factory or I'm going to do a brand. And I said, I want to be at the factory. Eventually, if the factory keeps growing and there's more time, I'll eventually try and do something. But right now, we're lucky enough that I don't even have time to think about what I ate this morning after breakfast. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not complaining in that sense because I'm also a little bit honest, Reinhardt. I'm more of a factory guy than being out there and going to shops and doing the whole thing. I obviously have done it numerous times and I love seeing the people and doing that. But doing that takes a lot of time away from the factory. And I needed to show my customers that I'm concentrating on them, not on me. You know what I mean? So that's why I did the approach of starting with private labels only, just producing cigars for other people as well.
Hostos, I think we have a rare opportunity today in that you have, in the not so distant past, gone through the entire process of building a factory from scratch. And what happens at the cigar factory, for a lot of cigar enthusiasts, no matter how involved they might be, that's still very much of an unknown in regards or related to what they're enjoying and what they're smoking. But uh, can you walk us through in an abbreviated version the necessary steps from an organizational and logistical standpoint to even build a factory from scratch and what it takes to get from a blank sheet of paper, a white sheet of paper, a blank canvas, to ultimately that first order when you were ready and at a capacity to roll the first 1,500
It's a great
cigars.
question, Reinhardt. And it's funny, in my case, I didn't even have a blank page because the space I found for the factory was packed with, I don't know what it was. So the first steps when I found the space was literally taking everything out, cleaning the whole factory up, fumigating, doing all this until I had a big hole in the factory. So
And just to, sorry if I stop you right there, but was that a cigar factory
no,
previously?
no, it was not. It was just a storage facility full of cartons and boxes, and it was not even being used at the moment. It was just storage. So the plan was, Reinhard, that you mentioned as well. When I had the open space, I then sat down and drew the whole space and what sizes and what were the number of areas that I had to put on paper down how I wanted to organize the factory. Having the experience that I have being in a factory for so long, I had an idea of the route I wanted to take. One of the main thing was like, I don't know if you guys have seen this a lot in factories. There's factories that grow so much from their original factory that eventually they become kind of a maze in there, because they keep adding areas and this and that, and it becomes a little bit of a maze. One of my main goals was I wanted everything to be linear in the factory. That way everything rolls in an order and there's no going back and forth from what is wanted to do. That was one of
It's a
my,
bit like an old European city where you have a historical city center, and
and
then
you
it
go from
starts to
there.
grow, and eventually it's just a crazy mess, which is
Eh,
all over the place.
exactly.
Versus you see a modern American city, and it's like
That's what I
everything
wanted.
is super clean and organized.
Yeah, because I have to admit I am a little bit OCD as well. So I always want things to be in order and exactly how they're supposed to go. But after I sketched out what I wanted, I don't think I know everything, Reinhard. I did my sketch, I did my thing, and I met with my people. I met with the main person I hired here. I am lucky enough that a lot of big cigar makers that are very good friends of mine came here and they started talking nice things. And I said, I don't want to hear anything nice. Tell me everything wrong. Tell me what you want me to fix, what you suggest, what you want me to do. And I heard a lot of suggestions and I took all that and then organized it in the way that I wanted. Obviously, as you say, Reinhardt, even though I still did that to start, we've grown in a way where I've had to add different areas and different departments. But from the beginning, I had a plan of how I wanted everything to flow. And going back to your question of when I got the first orders, I was ready since the end of December for orders to come in because all the samples I sent, I had procured the tobaccos that I took the risk of buying the tobaccos without even getting an order. But whatever I sent out, I had tobaccos readily available, and I was just sitting here waiting. Thankfully, it didn't take long for it to start. So obviously, when it started, it was our first run. You see how things flow, you adapt, you tweak, you see where you might be better, where it's too much. So you just add and adapt to it because the main goal for me is construction, consistency, and quality in the product. So to get all those things, I always, and still to this day, Reinhardt, I tweak, I see, I listen, I observe, because at the end of the day, it's what I love about the cigar business. It's always a moving body. There's always parts moving everywhere. It never stops. You always have to be on top of it. So you always have to adapt because you can never get into that square where this is how I do things and that's it. No, things change. You have to adapt to the change. So we've been doing that with the growth of the company, but the main thing with the growth is we cannot underestimate the quality and the consistency of the product because at the end of the day, everything is subjective when you smoke cigars. But if the cigars are rightly constructed and they're consistent, I sleep like a baby because that's what we're looking for. So go ahead, Ryan.
No, no, please finish your thought.
Oh, it was more about that I had a plan in my mind from the little experience I had, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew when I wanted to go, and I also knew the types of blends I wanted to offer people. Because one of my
That's exactly
things,
what I wanted to get to.
okay, there
Great
we go.
point.
Because it's one of the things when I started the factory that I wanted to differentiate myself a little bit not from just factories in DR, from Dominican Republic as a whole, because a lot of consumers see DR as mild and Nika is strong, or Nika is this, or DR is that. I want to be in the middle of all that because I'm trying to show people that Dominican Republic, same as Nicaragua, we use tobaccos from all over the world. So it's all about the blending style and the quality and how you train your people to make it happen. So when I started doing blends, I went a little bit outside of the box with what I like to smoke and what I like to see. You know what I mean? So that was part, and thankfully people liked what I offered them because they came back and ordered cigars. So since the beginning, I've been always been playing with different tobaccos that are usually not used. And I want to take, they always call me, oh, I got this new tobacco. Great. I want to try it. Let me smoke it. I'm always wanting to do things a little bit different. And thankfully, from word of mouth, that's been the reception that people feel like the cigars from La Isla have their own little sauce to them, meaning they have their own like flavor profile that we look for. And people always talk about that makes me really happy about how construction out of this factory is always great. Consistency is always there. And we've tested that we can do this because thankfully we're lucky enough that we're getting big orders in now, big amounts of cigars that we've produced and we shipped. And how do I know the customers are happy? They order more. At the end of the day, a lot of people ask me, how can you assure me how the cigar is going to be good? I tell people, doing business with you once is a waste of my time. Repeat business going, going, going. That's where the real business is. How can I get you that? Give you the product that you're asking me for and the consumer likes, you know?
Absolutely right. Now, two points to that.
Mhm.
One, where do you start with the procurement of the tobacco, and what 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 volumes are we talking about? Because you said you basically took a shot at this, and you procured the tobacco. You wanted to produce test blends and see how the market would react to that. What does that even look like in terms of capacity and magnitude? And how many different types of tobacco did you get in, and in which quantities? And then the second part, and I'll just throw both questions at you because they might be interlinked. Did you have a certain target audience in mind already, or did you feel, well, these two, three guys could possibly be in that wheel park, or could possibly a good fit for what I'm trying to do here? Because you I think immediately hit it off with La Serena. You had obviously
Or
our good friend Enrique with Matilda Cigars as one of your first customers. Warp came on very, very, very quickly. But did you have certain people in mind, or was it pretty much a shot in the
not really,
dark?
Reinhard. To be honest with you, not really, because when I started this company, I was trying to get out there as much as I could with everybody, you know? So I wasn't going to specific customers. I have mentioned before, even in that interview you mentioned with Fred the other day, that we have said no to people because I have a vision of how I want the products coming out of this factory to be, how the brands are. And at the end of the day, Reinhard, some of these deals that I've been offered have not been I don't see him as working out for me. So I say no. It's a very tightrope to walk when you're a small business like I am. But at the same time, we want La Isla to be not specifically a customer, what you're asking me, but a specific type of premium in the cigar industry that we're looking for. So that's more on that end. On the tobacco side, Reinhardt, I started a method that I still do it to this day. When I started the factory, obviously I didn't have enough to be able to buy an ungodly amount of inventory of tobacco. So when the factory started, probably about 10 bales of tobacco of different types of tobaccos, and that was it. Because I did not want to buy a lot because I didn't have any orders yet. But the cigars that I offered to people as samples, that tobacco that I procured, I knew there was enough tobacco to find if I needed to make 500,000 cigars, you know. And that's kind of the same method that we do to this day. I usually, when I do new blends for people, we procure tobaccos that we like to do for the blend. And that's it. I do the blend and I offer it to the customer. But obviously, I'm offering them blends with tobaccos I know I can find. I can't offer a blend knowing that after 5,000 cigars, it's going to be tough to find. So I always pick things that work that way. And that's what I still do to this day, actually, Ryan. I do samples, I get order in, and I procure the tobaccos. Obviously, I started buying 10 bales at the beginning, and today I'm buying every time I go out 60, 70, 80 bales, which is, but at the same time, Ryan, I never want to have a lot of inventory. Why? If I have too much of a specific tobacco, I'm going to have to force myself to use it because it's
Mhm.
there, it's been bought. The way that I approach blends when customers come to me, I tell them, what do you want? Oh, can you find this tobacco? Sure, let me investigate. It's a more open book instead of me having to tell them this are the tobaccos that I have and that's it. I'm more of an open book. Sometimes I get suggestions of tobacco that I'm like, yeah, we can find that, no problem. Sometimes I get tobacco suggested where I tell the customer this is very hard to find. We can maybe do a limited run, but not a full run production. So to this day, Ron, I keep it that way for those reasons, and also obviously for cash flow reasons to be able to move things around. But I still do not have 10,000 bales sitting here, none of that, and not for the foreseeable future because the way I've been doing it since the beginning, it's been working great. I have great relationships with all the suppliers that you asked me about who I went to. Lucky enough, being so long working in a cigar factory before, I knew all the suppliers. I knew where to go to because one of the things that I do at La Isla is I do not buy any second grade tobacco. Everything I buy is premium grade A from the main suppliers in the country. People sometimes see me and tell me, you're nuts buying that tobacco. I'm like, at the end of the day, my friend, the cigar talks for itself. I don't want to save 20 cents and the cigar's not where I want it to be. I'd rather spend those 20 extra cents and get the cigar how I want it to be. So it's been mostly that way, Ryan. I'm always trying to play with what I'm moving and what I'm offering to people. Obviously, a big order comes in, I get all the tobacco because I knew they were readily available. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like how I'm handling procuring and buying tobacco
Mhm. Just
specifically.
as an analogy, like when in, for example, in Italian cuisine, right? A lot of basic dishes might start with a sofrito, right? You get your carrots, your celery, your onions going, and you start to build from that. Would you say there are certain base ingredients that are main staples of your kitchen, certain types of
Yeah,
tobacco that
that's
you
true.
always have as the foundational core aspects, and then you
Yeah,
start building around that?
that's correct, Ryan. There's a few specific tobacco that we use all year, all day, every day. And those are specific tobaccos that are usually like Piloto Cubanos or Corojos or Criollo 98s or even Jalapa from Nicaragua or Condega from Nicaragua. We usually have those kind of tobaccos that are always being used. And that I would say is kind of the base because the other tobaccos that we procure is us thinking of new ideas for blends or customers suggesting a tobacco, but we do have specific main ones that we always are using. And wrapper as well. Like we're always rolling Mexican San Andres, we're always rolling Habano, always rolling Corojo, and always rolling Connecticut Ecuador. Those are the four main ones that we're always rolling as well.
Great. Um, so let's go into those early stages when the first customers started
Which
piling in.
I have to call him out, Reinhardt. It was my cigar
Please
pack.
do.
Alex Berezowski from my cigar pack was my first order. So I appreciate you, Alex, always.
Good kudos to Alec. He's a good guy, most certainly. And from there on, what was your approach in trying to build onto that and get the word out that what you're doing is different and piling up the
Well,
customers to build that foundation?
a good question, Reinhardt, and it goes back to the way I think. I can talk to you all day about a cigar, but I want you to try it and smoke it. The conversation is not going to get you where I want to get you. I want the cigar to impress you. So how did I approach that? Samples, 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 samples all day, sending out to everybody. I'll never forget my first PCA asked Tabacalera La Isla. I had about 300 cigar samples with me that I took to the show, and I was giving everybody out, and everybody was trying the cigars. And that was because, again, Ryan, there's a lot of people in this business that explain a lot about what the product is, and sometimes they over explain it, and it might be a little bit underwhelming or it wasn't what was explained. I want people to smoke the cigars and be impressed by the cigar, not by me. You know
Mm.
what I mean? That's why I always try to see and look about it. And when I started, it was all about that. It's like I told you, when I went to PCA the first year, I took about 300 cigar samples. This year, about 10. Why? Because I already have all the customers in play and samples were sent and we already have projects moving. So that shows me growth, but it's been a very humbling experience because doing that type of way that I do it, a lot of people like what we were doing for it. A lot of people were like, "Oh, what's this? This is interesting. I want to do this. What's the tobaccos?" So it was mostly that, Reiner. I just kept making samples for months and months, and I could send it to everybody. And obviously, me coming into this factory, having a lot of time working in the industry, I had a lot of people that I knew who to call, who to offer, who to send options to, and who to create those relationships with. It's like you mentioned Kyle from Warped. I got to be very good friends with Kyle when I was mostly at Cigar Rings. We knew each other before that, but during my Cigar Rings time, which was 2 years, by the way, we became good friends. And I've always been lucky enough that also Cigar Aficionado posts like the whatever happens, and they posted about me opening up this factory. And Kyle saw the post. Kyle called me and told me I'll be there in a week, and I was like, I got you. And ever since his first visit, you guys have seen the amount of products that we've done together, and it's been an amazing journey with him. He's one of my close friends, good friend, and we talk every day, not even cigars, whatever it is, you know? And that's the way that I approach my relationships with my customers. As corny as it sounds, it really is a team effort. I need to do the product right, and they need to have the right product to sell.
Yeah.
So my relationship with my customers become a relationship of almost being family. You mentioned Enrique. So I've known Enrique for a million years. And Enrique, as soon as he saw I opened the factory, he was another one that said, I'll see you in a few weeks. And we've been working together ever since. I'm very about creating relationships with people that I know are doing a good job at what they do. And that also gives me a good highway to be able to create products for them, you know? So it's more about those type of relationships. I don't like these black and white conversations where you just ask and you give or that. It's more about creating that type of relationship. And that's the way that I've always approached making cigars ever since I started, because at the end of the day, this is a business based on relationships as well, you know? And
Very
it's
true.
crazy, Ryan. Even when I started the factory, a lot of big cigar makers that I've known for years, they send me tables, molds, presses. Here, take this and just return them when you can. They always help
Well,
me out. So it's been a very, very interesting journey because you see how tight knit this business is and how the community is. And I always love when new people come in and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know this was this way." And they see there's a lot of unity besides all the BS that we know we hear everywhere, always, all the time, in and out of the cigar biz. I love this business because every time I talk to people about it, they're like, "Oh man, is it that casual-ish? Is it that?" And I'm like, yeah, that's how this business has always worked. It's all about trust. And it's such a small business that if you lose that trust, everybody will know about it. And every
mm,
potential customer might know about it as well, you know?
amen to that. Um, on the technical side, again, if I'm not mistaken, you don't treat tobacco anymore once you procure it, right? You get it in ready fermented, aged exactly the way you want it, and off you go. Um, which of the other technical elements, or let me rephrase, how did you approach the other technical components that follow afterwards? Like the way you approach bunching techniques, quality control aspects, how you present the tobaccos, the recipes to your rollers, all of these kind of like practical, logistical, technical aspects
Mhm.
in terms of how Tabacalera La Isla is rolling cigars, is manufacturing cigars. How did you approach that, and what were some of the things that you had learned previously through your time at Casada? Cigar Rings, maybe less so because that was a different side of the business.
Well, funny
But what were
enough,
some of the
Reinhardt,
things?
no, I was
Please.
gonna sorry to interrupt you there, but Cigar Rings was actually a little bit different because during my time at Cigar Rings, we visited a lot of factories of our
Yeah, good
customers, and
point.
they were actually more open because now that I was on the cigar ring side, I could see a lot and learn a lot as well.
And what were some of those learnings? How did you translate that into how you do things at La Isla?
Yeah, it's I call it a little bit of a mix of technology and traditional because I'm a little bit modern in that sense. But to go back first to the how you mentioned about the fermentation and all that, the way that I started the company, it's just the way that I wanted to do it, meaning that all the suppliers that I buy tobacco from know more than me about growing tobacco, first of all. I don't think I know everything. I don't think I'm the best. They know more than me. They've been doing this for longer than I've been alive. So that was one of the things. And these are people that I know and I trust. The other part of it, Reinhardt, is to be able to ferment tobacco and do all these works. It takes time. It takes time and it takes money. And I didn't have that where I would get an order and I'm like, oh, the tobacco's not ready. Give me 6 months. You know, I needed to have tobacco ready to go. The only thing we do with the tobaccos here, it's mostly just with the fillers. Some of them are have a little bit of humidity on them, and we have a drying room where we just dry out the fillers to be able to get them to the point where they want to work it. So that's why I did not start doing the fermentations and all these processes because it's too time consuming. And for a new factory that's starting off, we need to start moving product. We need to start getting things rolling. So and I've maintained it to this day because I still don't have the time to be able to work all these tobaccos for so long. That would happen more in the future when I'm buying more amounts of tobacco where I can play the game and use what I got and ferment at the same time. But I haven't been able to do it because we've been so swamped with work here and orders and production that I haven't been able to think even about that. It's crazy that I'm even saying this right now, but when I moved to this place, people said I was crazy, and I'm thinking of I might have to find a bigger place soon because the growth has been a lot for us. So I have not changed what has been working. You know what I mean? If I'm doing this method and the method is working, why would I switch it in the middle of everything for no apparent reason if it's been working that way? You know what I mean? So that's kind of the explanation in a simple term of why I'm not fermenting tobaccos. Going
Mhm.
back to the way production is done here, how I control the blends, how cigars need to be done. When I started the company, I also created an in-house system for ourselves where we control everything in the factory from the bale arrival to the cigar leaving the door packed, ready to ship. So I can track everything in the factory regarding the blends, what they are, what are the proportions of the blends, what are the percentages. We weigh every single cigar that's done in this factory while it's being done and after it's done as well to control quality and consistency. We also have all the weights of the cigars in the system of what it needs to be. And that's how we control orders coming in, blends going out, tobacco going out. It's mostly through the system we've set up where everything is chained together in that way. Going to the cigar makers themselves, what I've learned when I was with the family business and what I learned from all the factories I've seen most of them, been lucky enough to visit most of them here and in Nicaragua as well. I'm very good friends with all these factories owners, and every time I went there, I always learned something new from them. I always listened to the way they did things, and eventually, when I started the company, it was me taking everything from everybody. A funny example of that is in my aging room when I opened the factory. I asked a lot of people if they usually use to measure the temperature analog or digital ones. And when I asked everybody, they were kind of split. Half said analog, half said digital. You know what I did? I put both of them in the aging room. There's an analog and there's a digital in there. That way, there's no confusion, and I can see both options at the same time. That's an example of me taking information from everybody and putting it into a way that I think it works. And for us, going back to the question of the cigar makers themselves, how everything needs to be bunched. Obviously, Reinhardt, everything is a team effort. I hired key people that I knew that know how to work tobacco and that we could work together. And it was a little bit, I don't want to say easy, but simpler because in the beginning we had one pair. So it was all about taking that one pair and telling them how we're going to work, how the tobacco's organized in the area of the tobaccos. And we already had with one pair a plan and everything set up like I had 200 pairs because I didn't want to grow and have to figure things out while I'm growing. I wanted to have everything set and grow and then just tweak from there if I had to. So we trained our people the way we wanted them to roll our cigars. Some of them want to roll cigars too quick, and we're like, this is not a factory for that. You can roll slower, and you can do it this way or that. And we have a lot of things that we also do with the tobaccos to take care of the way we want cigars to be rolled. Even the way that we sort wrapper, for example. When you take wrapper, you got a right side and you got a left side of the leaf, right? We give the right side to the righty cigar makers and we give the left side to the lefty cigar makers. Why? Because when they're working with their powerful hand, they have a smoother roll. If you give them a left side and they're a righty, they kind of have to pivot their body a little bit. Doesn't mean it's not good, but it's less smooth. So we even separate that for them to be able to control the consistency of the product, you know? So it's more about things that we just kept adding and tweaking and seeing to get people to make cigars how we believe cigars should be made, you know? Because at the end of the day, you're never going to hear me say that's bad. I don't like that. That's incorrect. Everybody has their own style of doing things. Everybody has their own style of making cigars. So I never judge anything outside of my opinion. You can give me a cigar, and I said, nah, this is not for me, maybe, but it doesn't mean it's a bad cigar. It means it was done in a different style, in a different way. That's why, for me, construction and consistency is the main goal for me because if that is right, the blend you wanted to make is coming through to the consumer or to the smoker. That's what I'm looking for, not that oh, this cigar, everybody's gonna love it. Again, if everybody loved every single cigar we made here, I'd be the biggest factory in the world tomorrow, you know? And
Mhm.
there's different styles, everything is subjective, even me. I usually smoke more on the stronger side. I've made hundreds of blends that are mild, medium, no problem. But the cigars need to be good and consistent. That's what I'm always looking for. Because a customer might come to me being a private label company. Oh, I want a mild cigar. No problem. We'll make it happen for you. But we believe this is the right road to take when you start. You know.
Do you follow a specific school of thought when it comes to bunching techniques, whether you roll accordion, and bar, use Liebermans or don't use them?
We use lever bands here, so that's the first thing. We use lever bands, and mostly 90% of our style is accordion. Some customers have requested, hey, do it entubado, do it that way. We take the request and make it happen. But to for us, it's usually accordion style because again, there's debates about the difference between accordion and entubado, and there's different opinions. My opinion is, as a cigar smoker, I don't see that big of a difference. That's just my opinion, you know. So making entubado is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more expensive as well. But if the customers request it, no problem. I've made numerous hundreds, thousands of cigars that have entubado style, but it's 90% of the time we do accordion style. But
Did you have a,
go ahead.
please, you,
No, what I was going to tell you is, besides doing an accordion style, for us is the way that we also sort the fillers. The fillers need to always be in a specific order, the way they're going to be blended in the cigar, and the way you can't put a ligero in the outside and the seco in the middle. You know, the orders of tobacco so the cigar burns properly. So for us, the filler department is one of the most important ones because that's the most amount of tobacco that we're getting, and we're mixing different tobaccos. You know, when you're working with wrapper and binder, it's a wrapper and it's a binder. That's it. With a blend, you're working with different styles of fillers. So the method that we've created here is very controlled in a way that we give cigar makers tobacco for the blends, and everything is labeled. They know what it is. They know the position on the tables. That for me is more important if it is accordion or not. You know what I mean? It's all about the
yeah.
blend order and the way everything is put into the cigar when they punch it.
What's interesting about that also is particularly when we had previous shows with tobacco with cigar rollers and sometimes we got to the point that they said every bonchero is almost a blender in and by themselves because of the way they handle the tobacco,
100%.
how they do the bunch, how they reposition the leaf or parts of the leaf, how you tear, how you sort of strip and bring back in bits and pieces. Um, how do you even start with setting a certain methodology for that or a certain workflow, and then of course also police it through um, you know quality control aspects, but the supervisors and implementing that certain culture or the way of working that everybody follows religiously.
Yeah, I mean, for us, that is very important in the sense of when the cigar makers, we're too small, Reinhardt, to do a school here, for example. You know, big factories, they do the school where they train people. But the things with the schools is it takes time, and usually a lot of them don't stay. So a factory my size, that doesn't work. So what we do with cigar makers here, we know from experience by looking at them the way everything needs to go, right? So the way we even test cigar makers here when they show up, they want to get hired as a cigar maker. We give him tobacco and we leave him alone for an hour while he rolls 100 cigars or whatever it is. But we get away from the guy so he doesn't get nervous that everybody's on top of him looking, you know. So, but we're looking. We're seeing how he's getting the tobaccos. We're seeing how he's handling the bunch in his hand. We're seeing how he's positioning the leaves, how he wanted it to be. And that's how we did, because we hire people with experience because I can't teach him. So those people that come in with experience, some of them are good enough where we can tweak them. You know, hey, do this now, go slower, you're going too fast, or whatever the case may be. Because some of them might come from a different factory where they made 1,000 cigars a day, to give you an example. But I always tell them here, you're not going to make that much. You're going to make less because we're looking for more quality. So it's all about us seeing the way that they do it and tweaking them going forward. There's been cigar makers where when we see what they're doing, we say, no, thank you. This is not what we were looking for. But others we do, obviously. And that's how we approach it, because at the end of the day, it's like you said, The rollers really are blending. They're the ones that are doing the
Hmm.
cigars. They're blending the product. Even though you tell them this is this, and that, when they take it in their hands, they're feeling what they're doing with the cigars. You know what I mean? So it is a very artistic process in that way where they really are doing the blends that you're telling them to do. So that is 100% correct. But it's more about, with the experience that I have making cigars, it's seeing how good the cigar maker is, how many cigars he can do a day, how organized is he, how is he looking at the tobaccos, how is he putting them on the table, even how the way they grab the tobacco and they touch it, we know kind of if they know what they're doing or not, you know? So it's mostly that's the way that we hire people here. Thankfully, we've been lucky enough that another crazy thing I did, Reinhardt, last year, I put in 2 years ago, I put an AC in the whole factory, and the whole factory is temperature controlled for the tobacco beetle, for everything, but also for the employees, you know? And my employees here, we keep them very happy. We give them good tobaccos. We have a good environment for them. So we've been lucky enough that we have people coming to us now, where people show up because people know that we pay, that we do a good job, and we take care of our people. So we've had great word of mouth of people coming to us. So in that part, it hasn't been difficult for us to find people, but also obviously, as you guys have heard, there's always a scarcity of tobacco makers. But that's more of, if you're a big factory, you want to find 30 pairs, that's tough. In my case, I'm finding two or three at a time. That's a little bit easier to be able to make it happen. But that's kind of like how we control the cigar makers that we want. They need to have the experience. They need to roll cigar, and obviously we know where they've worked, we know where they've been, so we kind of get an idea. And sometimes I call people, "Hey, this guy's showing up here. Why did he leave? What's going on?" And we always have a conversation, and it has worked out for us easily because we know what we want and we tell them what they want and we repeat what we want. And another part, right, it's not just looking. I'm smoking cigars all day here. I go by the tables, I check the product, I see what's going on to be able to notice if there's a problem. That's one of the beauties of that system that I have set up here. Any cigar that I pull out from the aging room to see from production, I can follow that cigar all the way back to the bale. If there's a problem, I can know what supplier, what happened, and figure out. Thankfully, knock on wood, we haven't had to do that yet, but we have plans accordingly to whenever any situation arises, we take care of it well.
A lot of these intricacies and the little details that we were just talking about are very specific to uh, a particular cigar, a certain line of cigars, or a brand. And that might be due to the philosophy of that particular brand owner, right? Would you still say, though, that if you take five different cigars from five different brands, all made at Tabacalera La Isla, if you were to slit open the wrapper, open the bunch, and see how the cigar is being made, is there a clear house style in the way you do things, or is there a lot of nuance and variation according to what that particular brand is requesting you?
It's funny that you asked me that, Ryan, because I've literally done that before. I've taken different cigars, I've opened it to see the positioning of the tobacco and see everything, and it's uniform, and that's what I want. Because I
Mhm.
always tell my cigar makers, you're not making a better cigar than that guy. Every single cigar that's done at this factory is the same quality. It's the same way we have to approach the mindset of it. So we've trained them in a way where there's no lesser or more cigars in this factory. Everything needs to be treated the way. So what I'm looking for is uniformity. Because if I have a group of people here making cigars the way that I want them to be made, I want them to be that way. And again, as you mentioned, this is a natural handmade product. There's some variations, things that you see. Sometimes you say, hey, let's tweak this here and there. That's part of the cigar business. And that's the interesting part of it. It's always something new to do. But for us, that's the approach. It's about uniformity. Everything needs to be done the same way. Every cigar, doesn't matter if a cigar, to give you an example, if it's a $20 cigar, if it's a $300 cigar, it doesn't matter. It needs to be produced with the same mindset here. That's kind of like the culture I've created in the factory. And I'm still working on it every day because that's something that's very hard to get people, and more with people, new people coming in, tell them how it works. But for us, the culture here is every single cigar is the same. Doesn't matter who's it for. It doesn't matter. I mean, you don't even need to know who it is because every single cigar needs to be the same, you know? So
Do you
that's our
do you get
philosophy.
specific requests though from certain brands to work like the bunch in a certain way or reposition leaves differently because that's what kind of sets them apart and
Yeah, well,
creates their brand style?
Correct. I mean, I haven't gotten anything specific of a customer telling me, hey, roll the cigar this way. It's more on the end of tweaking what I send them. So that's where the changes and the tweaks come. So a lot of times customer tells me what they want. So they tell me I want this type of cigar, this type of blend, this nuance. And I say, great. What I always do is I send them what they want and I send them my opinion of what it
Mhm.
could be. Sometimes they pick mine, sometimes they don't. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just giving them another option of another point of view. You know what I mean? So mostly it's been that of, oh, blend B, I like it, but I want it to be stronger or spicier. Then we tweak it. I send you B1 and B2 as well. I always say, let the customer decide because sometimes we're fighting here amongst two blends. And I'm like, why are we even, if we're fighting amongst these two blends, it means it's a good blend, both of them.
Mhm.
So let's send both to the customers and let the customer decide. Some customers as well, they come here, we sit down at the blending table, we smoke pure tobaccos, they give me ideas of what they're looking for, and we start making blends. Some other customers are more specific. They might have a little bit more knowledge, let's call it, where they say, hey, I want this type of tobacco, I want this to get spicy, and then we do it as well. It's always about us giving options to the customers, but we've never been requested besides the few I told you, hey, I want these entubado, no problem. But we've never had requests of tweaks in the production side of things because when they smoke the cigars, if the blend is there and it's rightly constructed, they're good. There's no problem.
In terms of the style or the blend requests that you get, are there specific requests where you would just bluntly tell the customer, this is not us, or we can't produce that style of cigar, or we just don't want to?
Yeah, I mean, it's happened more in the sense of, again, you have more knowledgeable people than others. There's always also new people that want to start in the business as well, and they want to do a brand or something. And sometimes people even tell me, oh, I want my blend to be this way and that way and put all this in there. I tell them it's not going to work. It's not going to work if you do it that way. Because again, I have to be very transparent with my customers. If they're telling me something I think is not going to work, why would I do it? Because it won't work. I believe the second order will not come, you know? But I always tell my customers, this is my suggestion. At the end of the day, this is your baby. That's why I give them two options. You know, sometimes when it doesn't work, I give them that. But of course, I always tell the customers, again, it's a team effort. I always tell the guys, this is my opinion, what I believe is going to work better because that way we can grow more together. So I'm always very transparent with them and I tell them, I don't like it. I don't think it's going to work, or I think this is too much. Because also sometimes people want to come and do a new line and they want to make 8 sizes. If I didn't care, I would say, great, I'll get paid for my 8 sizes. But I always tell people, no, do one, do two, so you can start and grow from there, you know? So we're very transparent with our customers and they love that. And I've always said it's either a bad thing or a good thing, but I'm the most transparent guy you're going to see because I tell people what I think because I'm trying to help. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it as a bad thing, but I want people, again, if you come to me, you tell me you want the craziest cigar with 10 different tobaccos, I'm going to be, it doesn't work. That doesn't work. And I don't want a La Isla product to not work out there for the consumers. But again, the customers always decide. That's why I give them options and I give them my ideas and recommendations, you know?
Good question from Albert here in the chat
Albert, here we
box.
go.
Um, Albert just asked, are there specific vitolas that you like but you don't make enough? Like non-standard Lanceros, he said, or smaller ring gauges in general.
And thank you, Albert, for the comment before that. I appreciate it as well. Yeah, I mean, Albert, I'm a manufacturer. I love the cigars that don't sell that well, meaning thin cigars, short cigars, strong cigars. So, what Vitolas do I usually smoke? I even made a specific blend just for me to smoke. It's a 4x42. I love short, thin cigars because I love the intensity when it's that thin. I love them short because I'm always moving cigars all over the place and doing this or that. But usually it's a lot of manufacturers might give you that same answer. We love the sizes that sadly don't sell as well as we wanted them to sell. You know what I mean? Because for example, we make a lot of 60s here, a lot of 65s. I don't smoke that big. That's too big for me. But again, when we do the blends, we taste, we check the cigars, we do that. I can smoke it no problem, but it's usually not a size that I'm going to smoke cigars, you know? So it's I love Lanceros, I love Coronas, thin cigars all day.
Oh, so it's 5 years in. What are some of the things that, looking back, surprise you the most, or you'd say, honestly, if I were to start all over again, this is what I'd do slightly differently, or this is something that you haven't really thought about going in.
I mean, the only thought that comes to mind is the one I mentioned to you before. I should have gotten a bigger place. Because
Mm,
other than that, obviously there's things that we've done, because again, nobody's perfect. There's been a mistake here or something we need to tweak there or do that. But mostly the way that we've done it seems to be working and everybody's happy with the way that we're working. So the only thing I can think about now is space. Space is everything I need right now. Space is everything because even I got customers. I'm going to send you the boxes. Wait, hold them for a couple of weeks before I prepare because I don't have I don't have any space. So that's the only one that comes to mind. If there's another one that comes to mind, it hasn't shown up yet because that's always been the main one I'm thinking about. Other than that, I mean, there's a couple of things, of course, that we have changed and we want to change and we want to add and make better. But the way that we've been doing it, it's been working. The customers are happy. We got good word of mouth. We get good reviews, thankfully, every once in a while. So I mean, that's the only thing I can think about is space, 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 space. That's what I talk about every day here. It's about I don't have any space, but I always say that's a good problem to have.
you just use the word that I want to deep dive for a little moment on here. Reviews. Now, on the one hand, you mentioned you follow cigar news every single day. I know that you check reviews and you being at the very source of it, of course, that's a very emotional thing. At the same time, the review that's coming in for a certain cigar is also reflective of what that particular brand and the brand owner had in mind. So you're kind of like in an interesting position because that cigar is coming from you, but it's also the reflection of the vision of somebody else in
Mhm.
collaboration with you. What does that do with you, or how does that register with you when you see both positive or not so positive feedback on a specific cigar coming out of your factory?
Listen, Ray, I've always seen reviews as somebody's opinion, which is the truth. You talk about me thinking about the cigars that I make beside the person that's making the cigar. When I see a review, I see the review in the cigar. They're not talking about this guy or that guy. They're kind of more specific of what the cigar is giving them. So I read them all, of course, and I see everything. And again, as I mentioned in that previous interview, I do not let that dictate what I do here because at the end of the day, it's subjective. People, it's their opinion, it's what they thought about the product. And again, not everything is perfect. There might be something that they didn't like at the moment, or whatever the case was. I always take that into consideration. I see their points of what they're saying they didn't like, because I wouldn't be too smart if I ignored that completely. But I just use that as to see and feel what is going on with that specific cigar. But it does not. When I read a review and they talk about construction is perfect and the burn is razor sharp, I'm like, great. And they might not like the cigar at the end of it. It's your opinion, man. Your opinion is your opinion. I've always said about cigars, you like what you like. It's a very subjective thing, like wine is. You can love a cigar that I hate, or I can hate a cigar that you love. So I see it more as an opinion. I've never complained about reviews. I've always said, take the great ones and they help. The not so great ones, forget about them and keep going. Just see what it is and keep working at it. But I'll never let those reviews dictate what I'm doing here because at the end of the day, I'm here and I know everything that needs to go into that compared to just smoking the cigar. Obviously, the opinions are very well received by me. And again, it does not affect me. It's like you mentioned, like it's more of a personal thing, but I'm very not that personal to me because I see it as an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody's going to talk about what they want to talk about. Even the reviews are great for the industry. There's a lot of new people coming in as well. I love reading everything about it. But at the end of the day, it's more informational for me than it is anything else. I'm not going to
Different
be sad
palates.
about it. I'm not going to complain.
Different
For me,
palates. Smoke what you like and like what you smoke.
correct. That's the way that I see this type of product and this type of business. So for us, great. If they're good, if they're not that great, there's going to be a new one tomorrow, and that's it. And the cigar. And sometimes you see opinions from one review where the other one does not have the same opinion, and it's the same cigar. So that's where you notice it's just different opinions. So I'll never be mad about it. I'll never do anything differently because of them, but I'm always watching and I'm always listening, of course.
Now, this might be a more kind of like philosophical question on that note, but do you think that the whole cigar review aspect and the related cigar media aspect is flawed in the sense that it's too heavily leaning towards an opinion side when there's actual underlying facts or objective criteria that are very important, particularly for you as the manufacturer. Um, there's other industries where you have probably more focus on objective criteria, and there might be a subjective element floating on top because everybody's palate is different, and one might like a certain aroma or aromatic category, and other people gravitate towards something else. But that's something that I personally struggle with. That people always say, well, a cigar review is purely subjective. I I get that, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think it should be, or and that's more a consequence maybe of how cigar media in general works, and it's a lot on based on, and I say this with all the respect and love in the world, but it's a lot of sort of hobbyists behind cigar media platforms, what they call it, and it's not necessarily media. It has nothing to do with journalism per se. It's truly just an opinion based thing, and that's great. It helps the industry grow. It makes the culture bigger. But at the same time, I'm wondering if we just have a bit of a flawed aspect in that whole equation.
Well, if you see that Reinhardt more outside of the box, what media isn't? It doesn't have that flaw. Not even cigars,
True.
anything. If you think
Yep.
about media in general, 99% of these, anything, not even cigars, it's their opinion of to what they're seeing at the moment, you know?
Mhm.
So that's why I see it. That's why I see it that way, because again, there might be a cigar reviewer that hates strong cigars personally. So it might be tougher for him to give a great review to a super strong cigar than it is to a milder. I mean, so that's why I go back to it being subjective of the opinion of the person. It's very tough for you to try to get it. I get what you're saying, Ryan, but it's also tough to try to get into that too much because at the end of the day, one, it won't stop. There's new reviewers showing up every day. Now with the internet and YouTube and podcasts and all this, there's a lot of new people coming in, but I see it as a good thing because the more
I
people
agree.
to this, the more we grow as an industry. Your opinions are your opinions. Great. As long as you do it in the right way, because also if you just want to shit on, I don't know if I can curse here, but if you want to,
Anything and everything.
okay, if you want to like just shit on a specific cigar or somebody because you don't like him or whatever the case may be, that's something completely different. That goes more to what you're saying. I see it more as you review the cigar, you give your opinions, hey, I thought this wasn't that great. Oh, why? And sometimes I even go and get a cigar that they're talking about. And I start smoking the cigar, trying to see if I agree with what they're saying. But most of the time, it's nothing out of this world where I'm like, oh, we need to. No, it's never going to affect me in that way because I still see it. I think, Reinhardt, you should try to see it more that way because if you get too deep into it, you're never going to find a way out of it. Meaning, because it's just, for me, I see it, the more people come in, the better it is for the cigar industry as a whole.
I couldn't agree more with you on that. Absolutely, 100%.
And again, the
Andy,
reviewers are great for the industry. I love seeing all of them. I love talking to all of them. I love doing these type of things. It's great for the business, man. It's great for the cigar business. It's great to get more people to see what this is and listen to it, you know?
definitely.
So it's like when you send cigars to Half Wheel, if you send one to Charlie, but it's not the size Charlie likes, you're going to get a different review as if you send it to one of the other guys.
Well, but it all depends, Andy, because I believe like most of these websites, like that one, they go and they buy the cigars themselves. Nobody's sending them cigars. So it's more of them buy. But again, it goes back to your point, Andy. There might be a cigar that only has one size available. They might not like that size. So obviously, those are things that might affect what they feel about the cigar. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you said earlier you made some for Enrique, and help me out here with the Matilda, and you made Las Arenas.
La Sirena, huh?
Uh-huh. Which Las Arenas did you make?
I made the ones he calls the Mexican Mermaid. It's a Mexican San Andres cigar. I also made his limited edition, the LSLEs he calls them, which are Lanceros and 60s as well. and we also produce the OG Blue Band of the Sirena as well for them. So we do
Oh,
a couple of their lines for sure. There we
yeah,
go. There we
yeah.
go. There we go.
So yeah, it's just kind of funny because I still remember it's funny that a lot of the cigars I have in my humidor that you had something to do with because I've got Matildas in my humidor. I love them. Stores have a problem with some of them, but I'll buy them whenever I can find them. Which is just something, and we have a long, deep history together, so I know a lot of what you do. But I need to hook up with you. More important, the most important question I have for you: how's Manolo doing?
He's doing great. Manolo, I spoke to him a few weeks ago. Same as you left him, my friend, smoking cigars and being himself. He's doing great.
Oh,
He's
fantastic! And the family's all well.
Yeah, everybody's well, and I don't know from the last time we spoke. Now I got two kids, so everybody's good, everybody's happy, and I can't
Oh,
complain. I can't complain, but he's doing great. He's doing great. Thank you for asking.
fantastic! And I'm going to try it. I'm going to send you some messages, and we'll hook up after we're off of here.
Appreciate it, of course.
Macy,
Where's how you doing?
Estoy hablando con Hostos Quesada, so estoy muy emocionado, muy
Ay,
feliz.
por
Hostos, mucho
Dios. No,
gusto. How are you, sir? ¿Cómo
good,
está
good, good.
usted de los caballeros? Super usted. How are you?
Very good, man. Can't complain and just working a lot, working a lot.
Well, okay. Well, I'll make you work a little more with my questions
Hit
here.
me. I love it. I love it.
Love what you're doing. I know. I'll be honest. I confess. I don't know which cigars I smoked out of your factory. I know that I've smoked several, and I know I liked them. Maybe some of the that. And I got it. First things first. The copy editor, OCD, and me. The spelling. Half wheel others. They got the Isla with little I, little e, lowercase, and then
I love
big.
that. Love that
Is
question.
is
Love
that
that question.
correct? And if
Yes.
so, what can you explain? I want to know why. What's the story behind that?
That's a good question. When I started the logo of the company, I always wanted it to be a round logo. So I wanted the I to be lowercase. One of those reasons was when you see an uppercase I, it looks like an L sometimes. So that was one thing that I wanted to put in. The other part of that is exactly what you're asking me, Macy. People ask me all the time, why does it have a small I? And then I can talk to them about the whole company. It creates a little bit of interest in people to ask me, what is that? And that gives me an opening to be able to talk to them about the company and what we're doing. The other part of that lowercase I'm a very casual man. I always t-shirts, hats, jeans, and sneakers. So I wanted to have a little bit of an element of casualness to the logo, not being so serious, Mr. Tie here and all that. More of a little bit more relaxed logo looking. And as you see on Half Wheel, they asked me once, do you want us to put everything in caps and the I in lowercase? And I said, yes, please. I want that to pop. And that's when you see a writing of Tabacalera La Isla, the name always pops because it's in uppercase, but it catches your eye because there's a little I in the middle there. So, and of course, it's worked very well for Apple as well. So I said, man, wait a second. Why can't I not copy a little bit here, a little bit of that? So it was a mix of all those things, Macy, where I love it when people like you ask me what that is, because that is exactly why I put it on there.
I love, well,
It's a
that's
trap. It's a trap, and you may fell for it.
There you go, Albert.
it's a beautiful trap. It's a siren song, so I'll accept it. You don't
That's
have
awesome.
to.
That's awesome.
That basketball. Sorry, before we get into it, is that signed or what's this? You
Oh,
just you play hoops on the side,
yeah,
or is
no,
that a
it's not
memorabilia?
signed,
I'm
but
just
I'm a huge basketball fan ever since I was a kid. I grew up in the basketball world and it's my favorite sport. And somebody brought me that basketball. I just left it here. Sometimes when I'm thinking, I dribble a little bit sitting on my table, but I used to play when I was young, but I don't play anymore. But it's just I'm a huge fan of basketball and I always have something basketball related around me always.
who's your team, and did you watch the game seven that
Of
just
course I
kind of a
did. It was
flop?
very sad what happened at the beginning, but my team has always been the Heat. I'm a Miami guy.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess you can't buy LeBron forever, you know. That's what's up. We'll leave that. Uh, I'm a Phoenix Suns, so we got my own. They traded Kevin Durant, so thank God. I
Oh,
told
yeah.
anyway, don't even get me started.
No.
Okay, now getting as a 40-year-old, I gotta say, just quick comments. Sorry, and I will yield the floor. you're talking about swinging the bat at age 40. That absolutely just made hit me hard and made blood flow to all the right spots. I'll tell you, it was
I love it.
inspiring. So
I appreciate
I
it.
love to hear that. And I don't know if you're a college football fan. There's a coach, Mike Gundy,
I know Mike Gundy.
coaches Oklahoma State. If you ever watch the video, I'm a man, I'm 40. I dedicate that to you. So later today, when you're
Wow.
stressed, Google that and smoke a cigar and think of
I
me,
love it,
please.
man. I appreciate it. I will
Well,
definitely check that out for sure.
that's my line now. I yell at people just, I'm a man, I'm 40, leave me alone.
I
It
love it.
shuts
I'm gonna
people
check
up.
it
It's
out.
pretty good. Um, okay, now seriously, and a couple quick or a little more tobacco related, and I'll shut up. I do promise.
Oh, please, man. I appreciate the questions.
As a lawyer, I got to ask this because it does amaze me. You made a comment, you're talking about lack of contracts, lack of legal formalities in the cigar business. Everyone's told me the same thing, whether it's Sandy Kobas in Little Miami, El Titan, she's told me a story. I mean,
I know
everyone's told
Sandy
me,
well. She's great. I've been there. She's awesome. I love her.
yeah, she's told me somewhere, even the Fuente company they had a Don Carlos in honor of her dad, and they just agreed to kind of hold off on a trademark. And that actually gets good segue to my question. But why do you, I guess my question is, why do you think that is? And because everything I mean, I can't operate that way. I see the horror stories in my world that you'd be just beyond dead. So you said it surprises people. That's an understatement. I mean, it really is amazing. Um, and I guess the recourse is just if your name gets trashed, you're done. And so kind of a street justice, if you will, kind of what so
Mhm.
okay, so my question is this: in light of that fact, why is there so much? Also amazes me about cigar law, if you will, to go Frank Herrera on it. Shout out to Frank. Um, is the amount of trademark lawsuits. I view, and I know a little bit about trademark law. There's so many of these are absolutely frivolous. They're what I call domination suits, Vladimir Putin suits, where I'm stronger than you. We'll see. I will spend you down. I mean,
Mhm.
or in Gurkha's case, they look at Davidoff and say they have money, so maybe we can shake something out of them. That had to be that one was ridiculous. I mean, just and it settled. Shocking. All of them settled. None of them go to trial because they're all just bullshit.
Mhm.
And I mean, good brands have been shut down on some disputes on like this. I'll say Mombacho is one that comes to my mind. I say it, my words. I apologize. I speak for myself, but I do not apologize for my tone. No. So why is there all this trademark? I guess here's my question. In light of everyone being pretty relaxed, not legally formal, why is it on trademarks? Everyone's just going
Well,
nuts at each other and threatening and cease and desist to the max. What's that
well,
about?
it all depends, basically, because we're talking. I believe we're talking about two different things. Like what the part of the manufacturing side, in my case, doing private labels has nothing to do with trademarks and branding and all that. Like the customers themselves are the ones that handle that, obviously. So in a factory sense, that you ask why has it always been done that way? I've been in factories for 20 years and it's always been the way it's been done. Maybe it's a tradition that's always been coming that way. It's the way that you do business, and it's what you say. In this type of business, if your name has a problem, everybody in the industry is going to know. Everybody. So that's more on the manufacturing side. When you get to all these trademark situations that happen, I understand it because they're protecting their property, they're protecting their brands, and they're protecting
In
whatever they
theory,
believe. In theory, again, these are just different
yeah, that's the
opinions
thing.
of different
Everyone, I
people.
mean, Vladimir Putin's just protecting Russia, right? I mean, everyone's got
I
an
get you,
opinion,
but
right? We are saying
yeah,
before, everyone's certainly got an opinion on trademarks. I mean, talk
I
about anyway.
yeah, because again, Macy, like even myself, my name and my logo are registered in the US. I need to protect my company name and my factory information because I don't want my brand to be used as something that it isn't. So that's where I see a lot of the situations because I've even had situations, not at La Isla, but before, there were a few customers that did a new brand. The brand was done, everything was almost about to ship, and they had a problem with the name. So a lot of this happens too that I've seen, at least on my end, is a lot of people don't register correctly or don't wait till it's because now it takes what, a year for them to be able to get you back with a trademark or registration. So people just go with it until they see the problem maybe, and then these problems might arise. thankfully,
that's and those are legitimate. But I'm talking, and I think you identified the issues. Just the division is on the production side is one way, more traditional. On the brand owner side, there's a lot more. I think it's my intellectual property, it's my brand. Let's be honest, a lot of
correct,
them, that's all they own. That's the only asset is the brand because they don't
correct,
farm, they don't do shit. They
correct.
just brand it. And anyway, my opinion, once again, I don't apologize. So I think that's a great answer, and you nailed it right there. But I will say that examples I was talking about though are more of the like zodiac calendar stuff, where it's a calendar, a year of the snake, whatever. Like that's not something you can trademark. They had it on
Correct.
snake, and then they said we have year of the snake, or Mombacho, where Aganorsa let that go, hadn't had a Mombacho in a long time. And then they're like, oh, we sold 3 boxes of Mombacho one time in 1 year, therefore we're gonna shut. I mean, so you're right, but there's some pretty egregious examples. But I think you nailed it. It's just
Yeah, I
why
mean,
do business
again,
people do what they do? I mean, that
exactly.
ego, money,
I mean, and
anyway.
sometimes that might even be the case, Macy. I mean, sometimes people just do it because they see something is being done that they don't perceive as correct regarding to their brand. And so again, I don't judge anybody because I don't know the details deeply of what is happening with all these things, but I've seen it firsthand before. And there's usually things like that where people see that the logo is very similar, or the name is, or something that might create confusion. But on the manufacturing side, that's why I love doing private labels away, because that's something that I
Yeah.
stay away from, because I'm here just to make cigars.
But look at this. When it's Opus X doing it, pardon me, when it's Opus One, Mondavi doing it to Opus X Fuente, it's wrong. When it's Fuente X doing it to BX2 STG, and I certainly don't feel bad for STG, hard to make me, I should say, then it's okay. So there's a complete double standard. I'll move off that topic. But it's a
And
complete
you
double
But
think
you
about
had
standard,
it.
and
that
there's
with
no.
Veritas and La Verite was a prime example of that. Two different languages, both had the same meaning. And the person who had La Verite had an issue with a company called Veritas because the definition was the truth. One
Well,
was Latin,
Harvard
one
should
was
have an issue.
French.
That's their no. Yeah,
And
but
going
that's anyway.
and going back to that point, Macy, just to close it up here, this is something that not only happens in the cigar business, it happens in any kind of business
You're right, and
on the
especially in
trademarking
luxury
side
type.
and protecting their branding. What I'm talking mostly about is the factory side. It's more about people come to you because they know what you're doing and they trust you with their brand. In my case, anything that has to do when the cigars are leaving the factory, that's all the brand owners themselves. So that's why I mentioned more the factory itself. That's the way it works almost for everybody, I might dare say, because it's the way it's always been. And again, you don't want to lose that trust, because then you lose customers and you lose people in this type of business for that.
Well,
So
say
that is
this:
the
if anyone's a
protection.
brand owner out there and you get squeezed, reach out to me. We'll fight it. We'll take them to a jury trial. We'll get fees and awards. The solution to that is someone needs to stand up. That's my whole legal. Someone's got to stand up, make them pay for being aggressive, for trying the flex move, and then the market will. That's the problem, though. Is no one is really. Everyone just, oh, I don't want to pay the lawyers. I'm so scared, and then it never. And anyway, final point, and I will be done here. Is just a quick quality control question. I've had some cigars. I don't know if it's the retailer. I bought them online on discount. I'll just disclose that, but there's a particular cigar. They've just like a couple of leaves in the bunch, a couple tubes, do not want to light. Do you think that's just improper fermentation of those leaves? And I mean, you'll torch them, and it happens a lot on kind of the same, it runs in bunches. So just,
Are
and I
these
will yield
cigars
the floor.
coming out
Well,
of
yeah,
here,
what,
or just cigars in general that you buy and try?
I mean, I can name some. I mean, are we naming what was the question?
No, no. Going back to that question, is that those cigars that you had the problems with, were those cigars out of here, or somewhere else? Which, regardless,
They
it
were
doesn't.
certainly not out of your factory.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Then
No,
at
so I
least.
mean, in general, no, no, I
No,
would,
no, no.
no,
That's fine.
certainly
That's fine.
not.
No, but
No,
that
no, let
what
me be
happens with
clear.
that, Macy, is there's different things that factor into that. One is the fermentation of the specific tobacco, if it was fermented and aged properly. The other one is the positioning of the tobaccos in the cigars. If the tobaccos are rightly fermented and they're put in different positions wrongly in the cigar, it's going to cano on you. The blend is not going to come through. And some of those tobaccos specifically that you mentioned that might not burn as well, it's mostly fermentation and the quality of the product.
Yeah, and I don't want to name names. I don't want to
No,
name
no need.
companies that, are three-letter
Again,
companies that start with A and end with O and have a letter like this in the middle. I don't want to name. So anyway, thank you for your time. You've been
no,
great.
I appreciate it, Macy. And yeah, that's mostly, again, Macy, and I'm not saying that we're perfect here. There's a couple of cigars that
No,
we've
but
seen here and
no,
there.
thank you. But I've taken up so much of your time. Thank you. It's a real honor and a pleasure to talk to you. I genuinely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Macy, you're too kind, and I appreciate the words, man. Thank you very much.
Are you using draw masters at all?
But yes, we use draw masters and we weigh every single cigar that's produced here. So draw master is more of a random check for us. Every 30 minutes, we pick molds from production and we put them through the draw master machine. But for us, it's 100% the weights always for every single cigar. We weigh them while they're doing the bunch before it goes into the mold because I want to check the weight of the bunch, because if I check the weight of the cigar only when the wrapper's on, then I'm losing wrapper. You can't take wrapper off and put it back on. But when it's a bunch, correct, and wrapper is the most expensive tobacco, when you're doing it with the filler tobaccos and they weigh them right there before they put them in the mold, we can confirm that the weight is correct for the cigar. But regardless of that, we do check them again when they're rolled because nothing is perfect. You got to have as much checks as you can before the product goes into a box. Because
If you notice,
no, even when we sort cigars in the shipping department to pack, we weigh the cigars as well. We check, we weigh, we see everything before it goes into a box.
have you noticed an increase in the price of wrapper lately?
Oof, increasing everything lately. I mean, that's one of the toughest parts right now of procuring tobaccos. Every month there's a new price. Every month, always up, of course, never down. And there's always different situations happening in the world where any situation happening, it's an excuse for this or for that, or this is going up or that. So there's always a thing with the pricing of the tobaccos lately, and it's always going up. I always, when I go procure tobaccos, I try to not to have a conversation with them, telling him, listen, I'm not huge, I'm smaller, give me a break here and help me out. And we always figure something out, but it's always going up. It's always going up. And as you guys have seen online and through word of mouth, like people upping up their prices and prices going up for this or for that. In our case, as a manufacturer, I've always been very transparent with my customers. I have my margins. My margins are my margins. I don't go up. I don't go down. If the tobacco goes up, then the price goes up. If the tobacco stays the same, the price stays the same, But I'm never trying to up what I'm making off the product because then it wouldn't work out for me because I don't want to over expense myself as well, So it's all about playing the game of where you want to get. But tobaccos are always going up. Specifically, going back to what Reinhardt was mentioning of the way that I buy tobaccos, it's a little bit tougher for me because I'm going more times than usual because I don't buy huge lots. So that's the only drawback of that, because if I could go once and buy 200 bales and figure out a price, then I got those 200 bales set at that price for the X amount of time I'm going to use it. The way that I work is every time I go, it's always a pull and tug with the suppliers, but it's always a fun game. I enjoy it a lot because we're always talking, smoking, figuring out. And at the end of the day, I have much love for all my suppliers because they've taken very good care of me and always giving me the tobacco that I need. So I can't complain.
Is your factory out in Tamboril? Your factory?
Oh, my factory is actually in Gurabo. You've been to Camp David, right?
Yeah.
On the way to Camp David, there's a big free zone on the left side if you're going to Camp David, and that's where I'm at. It's about 10 minutes from Tamboril because a lot of my workers are from Tamboril. So, I mean, it's close enough. But I came to this free zone because the owners of this free zone is a childhood friend of mine. He gave me a great offer. Obviously, I showed up here during COVID so I could play a little bit of a game regarding what we wanted to make a deal with. And these people here are amazing, no problems. They're very respectful. They help out as much as they can. So I love being here. It hasn't been no problem so far.
Hostos, I love all these questions from our family here, and it's beautiful. Thank you all for chiming in and for the valuable questions. There was a question from Albert regarding the free zone, and I want to get to that in just a second. Before that, let me briefly piggyback on what Macy was saying, and I don't want to go back into the whole trademark discussion. That's a whole area or a whole topic in and by itself. But there was a question that came to mind, flipping the whole intellectual property thing on its head, and it's more relevant on a production side. And it might be a little dicey, or please feel free to say, well, I don't want to comment on that. But the band, the brand, the intellectual property on that being one aspect, there's another element of, and you could call that intellectual property as well, on the blend side. You've seen so many factories and you've smoked cigars from all over. How many cigars do you think are on the market today that are, in essence, the exact same cigar? They just have 7 different rings for 7 different brands on them. Is
Well,
that a thing?
It's hard for me to comment on that, Reinhardt, because again, at the end of the day, cigars that you smoke, some of them have similarities to them, but I would dare say a lot of them are different, because a lot of people think that a different cigar needs to be 100% completely different. You changing a wrapper and the filler of a blend is a completely different blend. If I take five bunches of the same blend and I put 5 different wrapper on it, it's a completely different profile. It's a different cigar. So at the end of the day, I believe everything is different because they make tweaks. Some factories might have 10 blends that they tweak and blend and don't do anymore. Some factories might have 200 blends that they're doing new things every day. I'm more in the latter, because what we do here is we blend new cigars every week. Because the way that I work is, if I create a product with you and you pick that product, you own that blend. I'm not giving that blend to anybody else. Because that's a way, going back to also what Macy was saying, is the way that I protect my customers here. Like the shipping department here, where all the bands, boxes, labels, is completely shut off from the whole factory itself. It's a walled area. There's a specific area where everything is held. I don't post any pictures of product till that customer posts it online. I take care of everything on my end to assure them that I'm protecting their product before it launches, or it's a product that's already moving. So those are the steps I take here to protect the customers. Even some people, when they do the tours here, I tell them you can take pictures, but I usually tell them in the shipping department, no pictures, because there's product that still hasn't been even announced, and I don't want that to come out. So those are the little things I do on my end to be able to protect that. But on the blending side, I believe there are similar blends, but I believe most of them are different, because it's just, as you tweak something from the other, it changes the blend completely. So it would be tough for me to say, oh, they're all the same. I mean, no, that's because even here, I'm a very small factory, Reinhard, and we've made over 200 different blends here. We're doing blends every day, but that's the way that I work. You pick the blend and you own the blend. Even the way that everything is labeled in my factory, I don't have specific codes or numbers for the blends. I call the blends what they are. Whatever brand, whatever line, that's the name of it, because I don't use it for anything else. So that's the
Great
way
comment.
we approach that. But to your
Bravo.
original question, yeah, I believe that everything is similar, but also different at the same time. Because it's, again, how many Habano wrapper cigars are out there? How many Corojo wrapper, Mexican San Andres, Connecticut? There's millions rolling around. But if you take 10 of them and you smoke them all next to each other, they're going to have differences to them.
Bravo. Thank you. Much appreciated. Albert, back to you regarding your free zone question.
Oh, well, so question was actually quite simple. I'm just curious about the free economy zone in DR, because I have experience with other free economy zones in different European countries. I just was curious how it works, because some in the European Union they kind of standardized. You can't really deviate a lot from that legislation. I'm just curious how DR free economic zone is different. Is it special agreements with USA customs or whatever, what it makes special?
It's a good question, Albert. It's mostly Dominican Republic, because Dominican Republic, since the 60s, I want to say, or early 70s, is when they started doing these free zones as a way to create jobs. And why did they do the free zone? Because a lot of these companies that wanted to produce, they said, I can't produce products at prices that people want with the taxation that happens here. So they were trying to figure out a way where they could produce, give work to hundreds of thousands of people in the country and not get taxed for it. Why? Because it's not even being sold in the Dominican Republic. It flies out of the Dominican Republic. It's a duty-free zone what we call the free zones here. And that's something that's very big in the Dominican Republic. We have a lot of free zones, not just cigars, obviously. We have a lot of clothing manufacturing, a lot of different types of businesses. And even the most free zones that we use in DR are parks, meaning that I don't own the free zone and I'm not the only company here. It's a bunch of different companies and different buildings. So that's a big thing in Dominican Republic that's been done for ages. And it's been a great thing for the country because it creates a lot of jobs, a good economy, and it helps push the country. Even with the situations that are happening now all over the world, we've been seeing people come to DR to open up new factories and new manufacturing because the country has this method here that works very well for the country and it works very well for the people who are supplying the product. It's like, that's why I decided to come into a free zone when I started the company, because being in a free zone is a lot more expensive. You gotta have a lot more permits. You gotta have, the free zone needs to approve you as a company for you to be able to work inside a company, like the board of the free zone and all that. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but once you go through all those loops and hoops, you have a better way of approaching and offering customers products at a reasonable price.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So basically, it's
Yeah,
a
Macy.
tax levy.
Yeah, but Macy was asking, yeah, free zone mean it's a duty-free zone. We don't pay any taxes. Dominican Republic. Obviously, when I ship products out of DR and it lands in the US, they get charged for all the S chips and taxes and all these things of that specific country. And that's the beauty of free zones. A lot of the people that supply us cigar rings, bands, materials, and labels, a lot of people that supply boxes, they're all in free zones as well. So we can play the game of transferring from their free zone to ours because it never gets released into the country.
Great question and clarification there. Hostos, slowly getting towards the end of our show, I wanted to briefly discuss your thoughts.
1 hour and 30 minutes is crazy. It means we're having a good time. It means we're having a good time.
There you go. Absolutely true. Man, look ahead with me a little bit as to what the imminent future for Tabacalera La Isla is supposed to look like. You mentioned a couple of times that you're basically, at a point where you're wondering, well, why didn't we build this whole thing bigger in the first place? When do you see the tipping point where you might have to consider expanding, taking on new buildings? Is it something that's even possible in the location that you're at, or would that ultimately mean starting from scratch somewhere else on a much larger scale?
Well, it all depends at the end of the day, Reinhard, because first of all, I'm thinking of trying to start searching for a place, but this is going to be at the end of the year because right now there's so much production and there's so much things going on. I can't put a soap in the soup, as they say, and all of a sudden start moving things around. The beauties of cigar factories as well is, which helps me in this case, is all cigar factories close for the end of the year, as you guys know. So it would be if I did the move at the end of this year, it would be during that time, the 3 to 4 weeks where we're closed. That way we can start moving things around if need be for that. But as of right now, I'm not even searching because I don't have the time or the wherewithal to be able to start moving a new factory. And also, me opening up a new factory, a lot of the things that I have here, I'm going to move over there. Obviously, I'm not going to do everything again and throw these out. So these are things that better work for me when we're during our break. Be it this year or be it next year, it depends on how it keeps going. But the main goal for me, Reinhard, going back to your original question, is to keep the factory growing as it has been growing. And that's what I'm looking at. And how can I keep doing that? Making the product as consistent as I can and giving the customers what they want. The customers are the ones that are going to, because at the end of the day, I make cigars for other people. Some of these people might be here today and I might be here tomorrow. It's a little bit more hard and a little bit more nervous, let's call it, when you don't have your own brand, that you know what's going on and you know that every single week, every single day, this is happening. With private labels, it's a lot harder because you're depending on the customer to see how they're doing and what they need. But the way that we've done it, we have over 45 different customers already that work with us here at the factory. So we're trying to grow that customer base even more because, again, one customer might have 20, 30 different lines, which is amazing. The goal for me is to keep getting more and more customers on board with La Isla, and I'll grow accordingly, which is what I've been doing for the last 5 years, is growing accordingly to what I see is coming and what's happening. But in business, as any business, everything that you do is a risk. Me moving to a bigger facility is a risk, because today this is happening and tomorrow it might not be happening. We don't know. I mean, everything in the world that's going on, something you never know. Everything is a risk, but it all depends if it's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm very calculated in the sense that I don't do anything without thinking about it too much. I always think about it too much. I've been thinking about this that we're talking about for the last 6 months, trying to figure out what I can do, what I can see, but I'm never going to do anything to compromise what's going on out here right now. So it's all about finding the right time to do it. And again, if in the end of the year I got so many orders where I need to add 10 more pairs, and I'll be like, okay, let's start moving and figure things out. I'm never afraid of that, because when I start doing something, I start doing it. I think about it for a while, but once I start, I don't stop. So whatever happens, when it gets to that point, I'll try to make sure everything happens as smoothly as I can, of course.
And also, I think you're almost uniquely positioned in a sense that you definitely have built a niche for yourself, and a reputation that's entirely grounded on your reliability, on your reputation in the industry, but also the quality of the product that you're putting out. And I want to applaud you for that and congratulate you on that. Even though it's been a relatively short journey of coming up on 5 years now, but what you've built there is absolutely remarkable, and it truly shines. And just know that people very much appreciate that, and know the quality that you're putting out.
I really appreciate the kind words, man, and that makes me work even harder, because at the end of the day, I've been working all my life, but this is the first time I'm working for myself. So it's even more work. It's 24/7. It's always around. When I started the company, I told my wife, I got to talk to you. She's like, what happened? I said, well, I need to let you know you officially have a mistress. He's like, what are you talking about? What's going on? I'm like, the factory. I'm going to be at the factory more than I'm going to be at the house at the beginning, probably. I'm going to be, again, and also this free zone, when I found it, I loved it because it was close enough to my house where I can move back and forth easily. But I told her ever since I started, this is now me, and I'm going to be here as long as I can and do as best as I can. So it's more, I'm very happy of how it's worked out, but it's also hasn't been just because it's me and it's here. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. But again, I'm as happy as I've ever been, because I've done this all my life, but now that I'm doing it for myself, it really pushes me to keep going more and more and more forward, and especially with those kinds of words you tell me, man. It's been an amazing ride. I honestly can't complain, and I'm very happy. I love this industry. I love the feedback. I love seeing people at the shows and talking with everybody. It's one of the most fun things that people that are not in this business just don't get. But when you are in it, you do understand the camaraderie that really comes out of this business and the friends you make along the way. It really is.
I couldn't think of a more suitable and beautiful closing statement, Hostos. It's been such a privilege and pleasure to have you at the Light 'em Up Lounge, and thanks for everything that you shared with us. Time truly flew by, and it's been a fabulous evening or afternoon spent together. Thank you very, very much, and continued success and joy with everything that you're doing. Keep it up, and we'll certainly be here to closely watch it and support it. And I take my hat off to you. All the very best.
I appreciate it, man. And thank you guys for the opportunity, and thank you guys for all the questions and for being and taking the time off your day just to listen to me ramble on for an hour and 30 minutes here. But I appreciate you guys being here, and anything you need, you know where to find me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
Send
you.
you an email, by the way. Your email hasn't changed, right?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat so you guys can see it right there.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Hostos Fernandez, Tabacalera La Isla. All the very best. We'll see you next week. Same time, same station, guys. Until then, light 'em up. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.